Hey there, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia Vigilantes review. And today we're going to be talking about episode 2, Takeoff, which follows off from that massive cliffhanger ending of the previous episode, where our team of vigilantes are confronted by Erasure Head when Knuckleduster was getting a little too violent with some random-ass businessman. The first episode of this show well and truly sold me on the concept and the characters, especially Knuckleduster, so I'm very excited to see where it all goes from here. Let's get started. We start off with a quick recap of Knuckleduster getting his arm trapped by the capture device before we actually get some new content. Erasure tells the trio that he was just walking around doing his shopping on his day off and happened to stumble across them picking on this man, so he's just a concerned citizen right now. Knuckleduster claims that this means that they are one and the same, before deciding to just straight up attack Erasure with no hesitation at all. No discussion, just punching. The early section of this fight, whilst brief, is a lot of fun. Knuckleduster throws a couple of wild punches, and whilst he misses them all, none of Aizawa's heavy kicks to the face actually manage to do much. There are blood droplets, yes, and a bit of recoil, and yet Knuckleduster's just smiling and keeps on coming. Oh, I love this guy so much. Aizawa instantly starts to think that this dude obviously has to have an endurance quirk, hence why he's just fine getting kicked in the face so casually, and so he goes to switch it off, only to realise that nothing's happening. Here's where we go to the intro theme. When we come back, it is way darker than it was when they started fighting. Yes, it's clearly sunset before, but it's not like they were fighting for 10 seconds and then it suddenly gets that dark. It seems that they've been fighting for quite a while, which makes it rather funny to me that the business guy only just started to run away, and that Aizawa was taking so long to come to his conclusion about Knuckleduster. As the suit's making his escape, it's only now that Popstep manages to recognise him from her research on Trigger, with him being in pictures at some of the villain attacks. In some of these photos, you can clearly see his face, but somehow she only recognises him when he turns his back and is running away. Especially since from that angle, he just has the most generic appearance ever. Black hair, a suit. But no, he does a runner, and Popstep and Crawler try to follow, only for the three villains from the previous episode to make their appearance, desperate to get some revenge on Crawler and Pop. I'm surprised they didn't want to rumble with Knuckleduster instead. I mean, he is the one that did the most damage to them after all. Back at the hero fight, Aizawa stands down and apologises to Knuckleduster, claiming that since it's become clear to him that he's not misusing a quirk, he can't actually do anything to him. Wait, really? I mean, Knuckles was clearly going to beat down on that guy. He was lifting him up, ready to knock him out, and essentially torture the man for a confession or info. But since he's not using a quirk, there's nothing a hero can do about it. So if some dude just whips out a knife or a gun but doesn't use a quirk, is a hero allowed to act? Yikes. Those sound like laws that need changing. All it seems he has the authority to do is call the police to give them a tip about this masked guy running around being violent. We also learn here that he's quirkless, so guess All Might was wrong. Deku could have become a quirkless hero. I mean, it did feel obvious that this would be the case. You see some heroes in the main show that really do have trash quirks, so whilst he wouldn't be able to do what he does in the big battles, you could have easily had him be a hero disposing of trash like these guys. Crawler is of course no match for the trio of triggered villains, and so he has no choice but to try to run or slide away. He manages to dodge what would have been a lethal blow from Psycho the Hedgehog, only to run into this big fella, who immediately cops a brick to the side of the head from Knuckleduster, which knocks him out, before Spikes also gets nailed by a thrown brick, which sends him flying and shatters on impact. Guess Knuckleduster goes to the same gym as Endeavor, because they're both extremely jacked and strong despite not having those types of quirks. I suppose that some humans in this world are just built differently. Erasure appears and captures these two guys, whilst Knuckleduster and Crawler go after Popstep, who's catching up to the suit, only for that flying lizard guy to step in and kick her into him. It's here that it's revealed that not only is this guy a trigger dealer, but he's also a bit of a freak who gets high on his own supply. He rants about not dropping his precious figures and licks his lips. Ew. Throw this dude in jail. He opens up one of his dolls and shoots up on Trigger, and his quirk is just plain creepy. He turns pitch black with no real features except his mouth and glowing eyes. He's giant and fully naked with lots of arms. Plus, he becomes all weird and childlike. This guy is absolute nightmare fuel for me. Ugh. He grabs Popstep, the lizard, and a car, and he starts playing with them like a child plays with his toys, which is way more unsettling to me than if he just tried to kill them straight away. I'll say this, it's a very good villain concept, it's very memorable, but also not so overpowered that it would be stupid for them to be able to take him on and succeed. Great stuff. Knuckleduster swings in and kicks him in the face with no hesitation, which seems like it would actually hurt about as much as a bug flying into your face, but somehow it manages to smack this dude silly. He stumbles and he manages to slap Knuckles out of the air, but he lands conveniently and easily survives it. It's Popstep that's in real trouble as the big guy loses his grip and she free falls, unable to use her quirk because she has to have her feet on something solid to activate it. Thus, she's gonna fall to her death. Here, Koichi gets his moment, activating his quirk and using it to glide up a wall, and leap, sacrificing himself to give Pop a launch pad. This was a much cooler heroic moment for him than they gave him in the alleyway last episode. There's no hesitation, there's an awesome internal monologue about how he wants to feel like a hero just once, even though he knows he can never go pro. And he also has a heroic sacrifice. This is how it's done. This is how you make an interesting protagonist. Of course, now he's falling to his death, and is only saved by the fact that the big guy takes an interest in him and tries to grab him, which gives him time to use his quirk on the giant hand, and then leap into some conveniently placed trash bags. Seriously, there's so much trash on the street in this show. The Thing then tries to step on him, only for Erasure to arrive and pretty much defeat the guy instantly. I'll be honest, I very much enjoyed that. I like that the Vigilantes didn't really do much here other than briefly distract him. They weren't ever going to beat him. Because the reality is that this is a whole different ball game to when Knuckles beat up the thugs in an alleyway in episode 1. It's clever writing because it shows that they have a huge way to go to be a functioning team of heroes. That even against this giant man-child thing that wasn't even fighting them to begin with, they didn't stand a chance compared to a pro hero. It sets up the power progression arc for the show very nicely. Aizawa and Knuckleduster have one last conversation where they state their differences of opinion on what they're getting up to, with Aizawa telling Knuckles that he has a terrible personality, before we get a little bit of bonding with Popstep and Crawler. At this point, Crawler also tries to get out of future training with Knuckleduster. Doesn't work though, because clearly the lure of feeling like a proper hero is too great for him to resist. And this is the right call. I'm glad they don't do a protracted will he, won't he type of storyline where he's deciding if he wants to be a hero or not. It would get very old very fast if Koichi was constantly flip-flopping on whether he wants to work with Knuckleduster or not. It's just not very compelling. I think it's better to have it played for laughs a couple of times early on like it was here, and then move on completely. We have a brief time skip where it shows that despite her not wanting to be involved previously, Popstep's continued working with the newly formed duo of Vigilantes, and is continuing to help them hunt down trigger users to find the source of the drug. This time she takes note of a pair of X-Men inspired schoolboys who are getting into a brawl using their quirks. Discount Cyclops versus Discount Wolverine. Crawler, sporting new gear gifted to him by Knuckleduster, makes his way over, and it's very embarrassing. It's extremely funny, but very embarrassing, and it feels very true to life to what all these big heroic entrances we see in the show would actually feel like if it was real to the average bystander. He arrives wearing his All Might hoodie, so already not scary or intimidating, and pretty lame to be openly wearing another hero's merch like that. Imagine Batman swooping in, but he's wearing a custom red Superman cape with the logo on it or something. Yeah, he'll put you in the hospital, but you'd come away from it thinking that it was a bit weird, kind of lame. Koichi then falls into a pile of trash, and I have to ask, how much trash is there in this city? He then does a big speech to introduce his name, complete with a Ginyu Force style power pose, and reveals his brand new identity, the Crawler, which sounds very creepy and not at all heroic. Seems like a name that J. Jonah Jameson would give out to some small fry villain that Spider-Man defeated who was sort of creepy. But the shame doesn't end here. The two students then identify him as Nice Guy, the local trash collector vigilante, which he tries to deny, which ups the cringe factor even more. Then you combine all of these factors with the music selection, and this scene is true perfection. Absolutely hilarious and ridiculous. Oh, and then on top of that, they get his new name wrong and call him the Crawler instead. I'm loving that the show is just so willing to shit on its lead like this. It creates such a different vibe to the mainline series, and it works so well. He acts all weird and condescending because he's their elder, and so they zap him in the eyes and start beating him up, even as he begs them to use his correct hero name. This in turn prompts Knuckleduster to descend from the rooftop ready to beat the shit out of these kids. And I'll be honest, I was annoyed not to see it. It is quickly becoming one of my favourite parts of this show to see Knuckleduster show no chill and lay down the hurt on everybody. Him bricking those thugs earlier in the episode was a true moment of glory in the canon of My Hero Academia. And these kids deserve it too. Imagine double teaming the local trash collector who's just trying to stop you fighting and then stomping him while he's down. They deserved the full Knuckleduster experience. I don't care how young they are. I'm an equal opportunity advocate for facing the consequences. Once again, Knuckleduster just elevates the scene as he tries to explain to Koichi why he punches first, because it gets the same result and it brings him happiness. Dude's unhinged. He then questions why it's even wrong to punch people when he feels like it. How long has he been a vigilante doing things this way? Years? How many poor souls have been pummeled by him for no real reason at all? Regardless, it turns out the best way to get these two dudes to listen was to get Popstep involved, because they are gooners and super fans who blush and beg for autographs as soon as she jumps down to see them. Then we come to the episode's big grand finale. A big triggered rock villain arrives, pretty much Kirishima on steroids. He almost kills a baby, who's saved by Crawler, and then the pair team up to take him down. But they don't really overpower him, it's more of a tactical thing. Punches alone won't do the job. You can't just smash through things like in the main series, so they have to trip him over, which allows his focus to slip slightly, allowing Knuckleduster's first punch to weaken his armor, and then Knuckles just goes nuts and wrecks him. Leaves him pretty badly beaten too. Maybe he took it a little too far, but then again, he almost killed a baby, so I kinda think he deserved it, and more. On top of that, it's not like Knuckleduster had much of a choice. This dude was made of rocks at the time. He couldn't take off the Knuckledusters, he would have broken his hands. Plus, he had to make sure he wasn't going to get back up. How is this that bad when Endeavour probably gives people third-degree burns with every single flashfire, fist, or prominence burn? All Might punches damn hard too, enough to crack concrete where the person's getting punched. Thus, when the detective later on's complaining about how the heroes went too far and would have to be suspended before he realises they're vigilantes, it's hard to understand his point of view. This dude well and truly had it coming. That being said, I'm pretty excited to see where it goes from here, especially to see this side of things. We briefly had an arc in the main series following the villains, but we never had a full story of those that operate outside the law and thus may go against cops and heroes as they also contend with villains. Thus, I'm eager to see what happens next. Also, I love that in the end, poor Koichi ends up simply known as the Crueler. Can't catch a break. Anyway, with all that being said, that's the end of the episode, and these have all been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of this episode? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.